Welcome back to the channel. My name is Greeditational, and in this video I am finally going over the quarterfinals of the $1,000 Little Cup tournament I am hosting, where some of the best Little Cup players of all time are competing against each other. The top 8 players of this tournament have all qualified as top cut through the Swiss stage and have now entered a single elimination bracket until one person is crowned the first Greeditational winner. Before we jump into the tournament games, let's have a quick refresher on the tournament format. Players first go through a tier veto system where they alternate between picking and banning different generations of Little Cup, with the 3 tiers remaining being played in a best of 3. This video is covering all quarterfinal matches, so if you want to see these games live or any of the rest of the tournament, be sure to check out the links in the description to both my Discord where live matches are posted, or the Smoke On forums where you can also find the usage stats of Pokemon. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel, as videos covering the remainder of Top Cut will be posted right here. Anyways, let's get into the matches. The first quarterfinal match we will be watching is myself versus Midas, aka Kaboom. Myself, I barely got into the top cut of this tournament. Again, I was 8th place in the bracket. I was the only 4-2 to make it into the tournament because I just had really good breakers just between the opponent's side beat. And as a result, I had to now play the number 1 seed, Midas, who coming into top cut went 6-0 undefeated, beat every single person he went against. I think he only went to maybe 1 or 2 game 3s as well. It's been a pretty dominant run by him. Additionally, also an SCL winner for SCL in 3. So after we went through our pick and bans, we ended on game 1 Sword and Shield. So just quickly go over my team. It's pretty normal. Like, you've got your Mienfoo Volibee, I've got my Fighting Resist Coughing, and I've got my Bird Resist of Onyx. And then I have Ferroseed for potential Abras and other special attackers. And I have Lastmon Staryu because I really thought that looked pretty good into his Scout. And then if we look at the matchup, it is pretty good. I'm going into no Water Resist, Diglett Ponyta. I mean, whatever water moves and other attacks I'm going to be clicking, they're looking pretty free. On the other side of the field, though, again, his team's looking pretty normal as well. He's got Timber over a Mienfoo, which people have been favoring. He's got his Volibee, he's got his Fighting Resist and his Bird Resist, and then his other 2 slots are the Diglett Ponyta. So as we hop into the matches, we're going to see the Volibee lead into Coughing, and I go for a knockoff here, just trying to get rid of this Coughing of Violet so my Mienfoo can do well later on in the battle. I take that Sludge Bomb and take 65%. As the Coughing switch outs, Rocks get clicked this next turn. Heat Wave does not get the knockout though. Sucker Punch is clicked the very next turn, trying to just get that guaranteed damage into the Volibee. I just go for Brave Bird. Ponder knocked out. Mon dead this early is looking really good. I go for Endure, trying to get Flare Blitz recoil is my assumption. I can't honestly remember. I then go for a knockoff, get rid of this Ponyta's Violet, takes 43%. I go for a Brave Bird the next turn, do 76. I do get burned afterwards though. And he went for a Flame Charge, trying to potentially get a speed boost here. I go into my own Mienfoo, Coughing already at 65 again. I went for a Fake Out. Maybe not the best click by me. I just let this Coughing get a free Pain Split if it has it. And it does. It's going to heal all the way back up to 65%. Onyx comes in though. I just go for Stealth Rocks. I let Onyx die. Psych. I live on 1 HP. I get the speed boost. I then just knock out the Diglett in 1. I thought that was dead. Onyx, I do just sack the Onyx to Mach Punch. I most likely go into my Coughing now. Looks like I do. I go for Fire Blast. Perhaps that's just my best move to hit. Crits knockoff, which is a little unfortunate. Ponyta comes in on the Rock Slack. Really good by him, because now he gets that Volibee in for free. I do just opt to let my Coughing die here, so Timber could be a bit of a problem. The Staryu is finally in. I go for T-Bolt. T-Bolt does get the knockout into the Volibee. Timber's going to be coming in next. I go into Mienfoo. I'm pretty sure Hydro/Psychic didn't kill from there. I go for a high jump kick. I do 52%. The Timber's going to go back up to 44. I go back into the Staryu now finally. I go for a Hydro Pump. And then probably having to risk that just because, again, I don't think the Psychic killed. I then go for a second Hydro. So a little silly by me, maybe in the end game. Perhaps, actually, I probably didn't have Psychic if I wasn't going for it. But I hit my 2 Hydros, and I'm able to win this game. So we're already up 1-0 in the series. Again, quarterfinals are best of 3 matches. However, this was my tier pick because I picked first. And so now we're going into Midas's pick of DPP, a tier I am not good at in the slightest. Alright, going in game 2, we're in DPP We're going to see the leads. We see Wailmer into a Machop. Water Spout gets clicked to 76%. The Machop reveals itself as Oranberry. Dynamic Punch is going to do 55 to the Whale. And I then go for a Hydro. Hydro hits into the Machop because of no guard. I don't get confused either by the 50. I go for a second Hydro. I do miss though into the Duskull. Return only does 28%. I then go into Ghastly on the second return. I then double out of the Ghastly as the Stunky comes in. Sucker gets clicked. Doesn't kill the Wailmer though. Even with Life Orb, Hydro Pump hits, kills Stunky. Clogger has to come in next and knocks out with a EQ. Reveals Stone Edge as well and then crits my Snover. Oh my god, that's bad. Machop comes in next. I go for an Ice Punch mid-ground. I freeze the Duskull. That's pretty fortunate by me. The Duskull just then thaws immediately, goes for Shadow Sneak. I went for Payback, though, because of the Sneak, and I was able to knock out the Duskull. Gliscor comes in next turn. EQ does not knock out the Machop. Ice Punch is going to get the Oko into the Gligar. He's only having 2 Mons left. Zigzagoon last. Substitute. Dynamic Punch. He's trying to scout me, trying to switch out, but I'm most likely just deciding I am sacking this Machop. Maybe he's trying to get me into E-Speed range as well, but it doesn't look really good for him. There's the E-Speed. Yeah, it's exactly what he was going for there. Ghastly is able to come in the next turn. Sludge Ball gets the knockout into Zig. Let's see who's the last Mon here. It's Munchlax last. I go for Boom, and I'm able to get the knockout. And honestly, a relatively fortunate game there for me. Obviously, I got that freeze into Duskull, which most likely is why it clicked Shadow Sneak in the first place. So I was able to get the boosted... what is it called? I was able to get the boosted payback damage into it. I also got relatively fortunate with critting the... did I crit? We're willing to go back into the games here. I got pretty fortunate to live this Sucker Punch roll as well. I'll see if... and according to Midas on this turn, I did actually just get a min roll to not die to this Sucker Punch, so pretty fortunate by me there. Now, it does technically go the other way immediately, because not only does Stone Edge hit, and then he then crits me. Now, I then, again, pretty fortunate with this Ice Punch, because he does say afterwards in here, if I don't get frozen, I don't click Sneak, but that was a troll. I thought you'd Ghastly. But, like, very reasonable enough. So I did get a little bit fortunate, obviously, both hitting that Hydro Pump and aiming the Hydro Pump into the Stunky and potentially living that roll as well as with that freeze. But I think I mean, I can't really say prepped because I don't play this tier, but I think my matchup was honestly really good. The Wailmer obviously put in so much work. Only play I was actually very happy with was right here in the beginning, is when I finally went into this Ghastly to double the Ghastly back out. I was like, ooh, I might be kind of good at this tier. But that is going to result in me winning this 2-0, and then I'm going to move on to the semifinals. Midas unfortunately eliminated after going undefeated through the Swiss stage, but he was compensated for his efforts, as everyone who made Top Cut made some portion of money. But let's get into the next match. Our next matchup of the quarterfinals, we have Corkscrew, our 2nd seed, versus Raichi, our 7th seed. In their tier veto, we're going to be starting off with an ADV game 1. As we get into the matchup, we see Voltorb into Pinecoat. Voltorb goes for Explosion to try and knock out that Pinecoat. Lives on 2 HP though. He then goes for a Rock Blast, only gets the 2 hits though, then misses the next Rock Blast. Explosion gets clipped. Anorith lives on 1. Already going pretty unfortunate. Reveals Slackberry, but Trapinch's Quick Attack in the back. Chinchou is now has to come in next as the switch. Most likely going for the Water move, but actually Substitute gets clicked. That Ice Beam does 40% the Snubble, and then the Snubble reveals Roar. Oh my gosh, nothing is going right for Cork here. That Water Sprout does 40% to bag on. Reveals Substitute as well, trying to get that Citrus Berry proc, so it's now back and healthy to live the next Wilmer hit. Reveals Icy Wind though, and it crits, and then all that just dies. The Duo comes in, goes for a Body Slam. Good Cork switch in here. Getting in that Ghastly, doubles out the Ghastly though into the Wailmer, now gets a free Water Spout, and it just kills the Duo. Trapinch is going to come in next, goes for a Quick Attack, trying to get that, lower that Water Spout base power. Anorith comes in, and then Snubble, Surf gets clicked. Snubble though lives the Surf, and now is back at 100 because of the Citrus, and actually steals another Citrus from the Ghastly. Anorith comes in, and the Ghastly steals a Slackberry from Anorith, goes for a Boom as well, but Anorith is going to live on 1. Elka comes in, and all of a sudden, Cork, even after how pretty rough that started, he's up 3-1. Thunderbolt does 52 and paralyzes the Snubbull. Body Slam doesn't kill the Elekid. Snubble's now going to have to be going down to half HP here. Even if it gets a knockout into the Elekid, it doesn't. And wow, Cork really turned that game around from how it started, from didn't get the boom knockout, missed the rock blast, lost 2 mons really early on, and the spike going up. He was really able to turn that one around, and he's able to win game 1 and then against his opponent's tier pick. So let's get into the game 2. And if we go into game 2, we now get to see Corkscrew's pick of Black and White against Raichu. Raichu was having a really successful ADV, so unfortunately he wasn't able to close that game out. So he's going to have to turn around on this one. Corkscrew bring in a pretty normal looking team, other than I would say the Chinchou, if anything. Abra, Ghastly, obviously 2 extremely threatening mons. Hard to have any good reliable switch-ins. They obviously are going to pressure that Porygon on Raichu's side very well together. Mienfoo, Volibee are Mienfoo and Volibee, and this Chinchou really curious to see what's going to be able to pull up in this matchup. On the other side though, Raichu got a double water core of Staryu and Tentacool. He's got 3 potential rapid spinners, so even with that Ghastly existing, surely these hazards are going to get removed, and we'll have to see what the players lead into here on the lead matchup. We see the Tentacool trying to potentially go for a T-Spike. However, the Abra leads. Defensive Porygon has to come in, but it's taken 36 and 40% from these Psychics. It's taken a lot of damage. Mienfoo is able to come in on a recover turn, goes for a U-turn, perhaps protecting that Porygon the switch. But it stayed in, going for a T-Wave. Is able to T-Wave the Volibee, but it U-turns out. Ferroseed's able to come in. Looks like hazards are going to get traded here, but Raichu actually also staying with Drillbur to spin away the hazards. Now it's only at 10%. Really going to be at low HP. EQ gets clicked. Does 43 as the rocks go back up. Wow, that Pharaoh taking a lot of damage, but a second hazard goes up. Let's see, Tenta also a spin. No, he actually goes for the T-Spike. Drillbur most likely is sacked here to the hazards. Ghastly reveals T-Bolt. Staryu's going to come in next, try and probably threaten with Psychic. Chinchou's now going to have to take that T-Spike and rocks. Psychic does 21%. This has got to be the most defensive Chow, or the weakest Staryu of all time. Volt Absorb gets traced here by the defensive Porygon, and it's a great switch by him. Now that Porygon's nice and healthy, Ghastly's going to come in on the next turn, and most likely, holy, Cork is amazing. That's an incredible second Volt switch to get that most likely Life Orb Abra in. Maybe not. It only did 60% to a Tenta. I know he's got good special defense, but still. Porygon's now going to have to come in, take all those hazards, trace his Magic Guard at least, but Mienfoo's going to come in, try and scare out this normal type again. Recovers back up to full HP, but now Mienfoo is poisoned by that T-Spike. Ghastly switches in, loses his Violite to knockoff. Remember, Gen 5, it is still 20 base power. U-turn gets clicked the next turn as the Ghastly stays in and has to be sacked. This Abra is just getting kill after kill. Really, actually, no Psychic resist in 3 weeks. It has to put it all on this Porygon. Porygon, though, goes for another recover. Ice Beam gets clicked, only does 22. Giga Drain gets clicked next turn. We'll see if this Corkscrew decides to try and get more hazards, maybe potentially paralyze this. Goes for a second Spike. Ferroseed is going to get sacked finally, but Mienfoo is finally now in. Again, he has to keep that Porygon alive. It's the only way he can beat that Abra. Staryu is going to be sacked. Timber now has to come in next. We'll see what this Timber can hopefully see if it can turn it around from here. Chinchou going to be sacked here to the hazards. Payback in Gen 5 doesn't work for whatever reason. Barely did any damage. Psychic gets clicked, knocks out the Timber because the Ghastly reveals Life Orb. And this Porygon is going to have to do the dash. Sludge Bomb gets clicked, does 48%. If it ever gets a poison, this game is going to be over. Sludge Bomb clicked again, and there's the poison. And even goes for the T-Wave too, but the poison just ends the game. Again, was going to be extremely tough for Raichu there, with the double special attackers still alive, and then Volibee and Mienfoo still having knockoff, not even needing to risk going for the HJK, I wouldn't think. And Corkscrew is able to win that game and move on to the semifinals. Up next, we have Fatty, aka Brufasa, playing against Freezeye. So our first matchup here is going to be, or game 1 is going to be in Black and White. And if we look at Fatty's team, he's got some curious guys, I'll say that much. He's got the Shelter, Not 2, Magnemite, Diglett. He's got double trapping potentially, and then Volbeat Timber to try and help put on pressure for most likely either this Natu or Shelter to try and go win the game. Natu also going to be providing that magic bounce support to try and keep hazards off on Fatty's side of the field. And on the other side, Frieza has also got a pretty offensive looking pace here of Carvanha and Snover, obviously going to try and get those speed boosts. Obviously going to be really hard with this Timber. Now looking at it, it's got 3 Mons weak to the Timber. Ghastly's going to be the only immunity, and even that Volbeat Mienfoo will still be taking a lot of damage from it. So let's see how it goes here. Natu is going to lead into the Mienfoo. Pretty good lead, you would think, for the Natu, but it opts to leave. Diglett comes in as the Snover now got to come in from U-turn. Magnemite is going to force it to take a Blizzard and take 38%. Wow, it's a lot of damage. Mienfoo comes in on Light Screen and Reflect. Wow, the Magnemite actually trying to set up screens here, and then reveals Volt Switch as well. Let's see who goes into Volbeat, gets a speed boost. You got to be a bit concerned about this Volbeat now. Carvanha is able to switch in at least off that U-turn, but this Nasty Plot is going to be really scary. But it reveals Blizzard Life Orb because of the Snover. Wow, and it's able, even through the screen, is able to knock out this Volbeat, and you gotta be a little concerned now about that Carvanha, even with the Timber coming in. And speaking of Timber, it's able to get a defense boost because it bulked up on the switch out, and with the screen still up, it's going to potentially be a big problem for Frieza here. He goes for a second bulk up, not acting to get any damage into the Mienfoo. Goes for HJK as Drain Punch is clicked, doesn't even knock out the Mienfoo. Wow. Even at +2, Mach Punch gets clicked next. Doesn't risk the Ghastly at all in any of those turns, but does go it now. But Shadow Ball's going to get clicked. Magnemite, though, going to get knocked out due to the hail damage. Let's see who goes into next here. Goes into the Diglett and actually gets Rocks up. That's going to be really good for getting damage into the other side of the field. But Memento gets clicked into as Frieza went for Brave Bird, and now it's looking like Shelter is about to do Scarlet Violet Shelter things because Shell Smash just gets clicked. And we'll see if he has a switch. Icicle Spear obviously going to get this knockout into the Volbeat. We just got to watch another animation because of the weak armor procs. Poniard is going to be the only chance possible because of Sucker Punch. Doesn't even go for it, actually. Icicle Spear gets clicked. Perhaps strongest move. Goes for knockoff, actually. Barely did any damage. Ice Shard gets clicked the very next turn. Has the Sucker, and it's looking dire. Ice Shard is going to get the knockout now into this Poniard. Let's see if anything in the back here has a semblance of living. Ice Shard only does 10%. Icicle Spear is going to get the knockout into this Snover. And it's looking like the game is over after this one. Carvanha is going to have to come in. Goes for Protect. Trying to get those speed boosts up. Is now is at +1. And he actually gets the double Protect. And now he's at +2 speed. Aw, Shelter, you've been robbed of your win. Goes for Ice Shard. Does a lot to the Carvanha. It's at 16%. Obviously, +2 Shelter. Now at 1 HP. Timber comes in. Goes for the Mach Punch. And now it's left to the Life Orb Ghastly to try and win the game. Sludge Bomb does 76. Is actually able to knock out the Timber. It's good down to the Natu. And oh my god, the Natu Choice Scarf. Able to clutch out the game after Frieza gets a little bit fortunate there with the double Protect to potentially make it a game. But it didn't matter in the end. Fatty with his pretty offensive teams by both, but Fatty is able to win their tier pick of Black and White and go up in the series 1-0. Now, as we go into Game 2, we have Sword and Shield, Frieza's pick. And, again, we've got another offensive team here by Frieza. He's most likely going to be having that hazard setting Fair Seed, and then he's got potentially maybe a Focus Sash Diglett, but he's most likely got a Nasty Pot Volbeat, Swords Dance Grookey, Ponyta, who's just strong in general, Dragon Dance Tyrant. We'll have to see how Fatty's going to be able to handle this. A double Grookey on both sides. I'm not going to lie, I don't remember the Grookey sprite looking like this. He looks a little silly compared to everyone else, but it matters not. Let's see what Fatty is going to be able to do into this offensive team. We see the turn zeros. We see Coughing into Ferroseed. It reveals Fire Blast. Is actually Focus Sash Ferroseed, but he gets a turn 1 burn and then a T-Wave miss. I don't think I could imagine a turn going as bad as that. Dragon Dance gets clicked very next turn as it reveals Will-O-Wisp. Mudbray is going to come in as the Tyrant. Now goes for a second D-Dance. Gets back to neutral attack. Ice Fang does 58%. To neutral. Wow, Stealth Rocks get clicked by Fatty. Absolute disrespect. Now the Mudbray is just going to have to die for its sins. Omanite comes in next as the Grookey opts to be the switch. Let's see what he clicks. Goes for Ice Beam. Oh, goodness. The Grookey just dies. Diglett has to switch in next, but the grassy terrain working against it. The Omanite only takes 45. Even with Life Orb, Ice Beam gets clicked next. And in all, I mean, this game just already looks over even after the turn 1. Hydro Pump hits into the Ponyta. I mean, it's just over. Omanite's going to sweep. And yeah, Freezeye forfeits. Wow. A turn 8 game finish. Again, Fatty, super fortunate with the turn 1 Fire Blast hit plus burn into Focus Sash Ferroseed, and then T-Wave dodge. I mean, he led correctly at least, but wow, a really unfortunate way for Freezeye to be knocked out of the tournament. But for the Fatty fans out there, he's able to move on to the semifinals. And our last quarterfinals match, probably the most anticipated one, best for last. We have Kither versus Star Master. Both of these two players are probably some of, if not the best Little Cup players of all time. And we're starting game 1 with Oras, Gen 6. We see Kither here has got pretty normal looking team. He's got a nice little Firewater Grass core with that Ponyta Fungus Chinchou. He's got a Fletchling, and then he's got his Mienfoo Poniard. Star Master also showing up with half of the same team as well, Mienfoo Poniard Chinchou, but opts to have a different fighting resist in Snubble instead of the Fungus. He's got Snivy, who's looking pretty good into this team, either as Scarf or just a Violite / Berry Juice. It's going to be hard for Kither to get those turns right. And so we get into the matchup. We see Mienfoos are going to lead into each other. Fake Out gets clicked into Kither's because he potentially wins the tie. Knockoff is going to get traded into the two Mienfoos. Let's see if Kither opts to switch out here. It actually just goes for the U-turn as HJK gets clicked, so potentially getting pretty fortunate there. And he reveals a Eject Button Fungus, and then the Fletchling goes for U-turn, predicting the Mienfoo to leave. Obviously didn't have it a Violate, would have died in an Acro, but gets that turn wrong, and then Snubble's able to go for a free T-Wave. Unfortunately, the Chinchou is able to come in. Volt Switch gets clicked into the Snivy, only doing 19%. Fire Blast by the Ponyta does 36, doing some serious damage. Skull gets clicked by Chinchou. Obviously can't go for that electric move into the Volt Absorb Chinchou on Kither's side. Skull and Berry Juice get procced. Chinchou now at 55. Snivy's going to come here on another Skull. That's a good switch by Star Master. Goes for Substitute. It gets his Berry Juice back. But Kither smartly stays in again. Wow, he's done a really good job pivoting around this Snivy so far. Fire Blast, unfortunate miss there. Gonna have to go back into his Chow. Skull gets clicked again. Finally gets the burn, but Berry Juice gonna heal it back to full. We'll have to see how these Chinchou mirror interactions are gonna go. Obviously, we would love to preserve it here for Kither. Skull gets clicked now into the Snivy, 28%. Does he get the burn? No. Snivy's back in at 72. Leestorm gets clicked. Obviously, has revealed itself not to be Scarf. A second Fire Blast miss. Again, pretty unfortunate for Kither, but he's able to compose himself. Goes for Hidden Power. Had super affected into the Chow, so most likely Grass or Ground. I would say Grass most likely. Goes for a Flame Charge now as the Mienfoo tried to pivot out from that Fire Blast. Took 75, and now +2 speed Ponyta. This thing's going to be a monster. Fire Blast is 83% to the Snubble. Play Rough gets clicked as predicting the Pony to leave. It didn't. Fire Blast hits again, now doing 78. Finally goes for the T-Wave, gets the Para. Again, T-Wave is still not fully nerfed at this point. It gets burnt, though, by the Flame Body, and then the Flame Charge is able to get the knockout. Mienfoo, at least, still faster, gets the knockout with knockoff, but High Jump Kick gets clicked. And now this is looking like an HJK sweep. We'll have to see if Kither opts to go for the speed tie. If it is one at all, it goes for the U-turn, most likely sacking Chow here. HJK hits. Fletchling comes in, goes for Acrobatics, gets the knockout. It's all down to Porygon. Gets a special attack boost. That is step 1. But Tailwind gets revealed by Kither. Then goes for a Swords Dance, predicting a second agility. And it's exactly what it gets clicked here. Acrobatics gets the knockout. Wow. Really well played there by Kither. I guess it could have gotten a bit scary because obviously Mienfoo and Fungus would have died. Well, Mienfoo would have died to that attack, especially with that no life orb. Would have come down to if Fungus and Ponder would be able to. But no matter, Fletchling with the +2 Tailwind Swords Dance is able to get the knockout, and Kither wins game 1. Up next in DPP Gen 4 Little Cup, we'll see what the matchup is. We'll see Porygon a second Porygon and another Ponyta by Kither here. Goes for Protect. His return is to click by the Porygon because he's actually traced. And he traced the Flash Fire. Wow. Most times you see them be download because obviously Porygon has that great coverage. But not on this team. Bronzor went for Stealth Rocks and then gets T-Bolt Parad into full Parad. Munchlax could be the switch and Kither goes for return. Ghastly, great switch though. Gets the immunity to the normal moves. Sludge Bomb gets a poison. Zen Headbutt. Wow, it's an unfortunate miss for Kither. Doesn't get this knockout in the Ghastly. Now Ghastly's just going to be able to spam these substitutes because the Munchlax got poison, and it will eventually get this knockout, most likely. Fire Punch gets clicked the next turn, just trying to get that consistent damage onto these substitutes. Starmaster, again, because he got that Sludge Bomb poison, is just going to eventually whittle down this Munchlax until it is finally in range of the next Sludge Bomb, which should be here on turn 13. It looks like it is. Munchlax down. Remoraid comes in and reveals itself as Choice Scarf, Water Spout. Munchlax opts to be the next switch. Tries to switch out, but wow, great pursuit there by the Munchlax. Coughing comes in next, and the Porygon traces Levitate. Sludge Bomb does 57%. The end gets his own poison at least, but Porygon so naturally bulky because that high BST. Psychic, even still, doing 45. No download boost. Fire Blast gets clicked. Porygon, it's knocked out, but Diglett's the last mon you want to see for Kither there. That Ponyta goes down. Wailmer opts to be the second switch in. Wow, double Water Spout mons. Sucker Punch just gets a little bit of extra chip into the Whale. Gets a boom now into the Munchlax. He's putting it down for the 2 versus 2. Coughing in the Stunky. Booms into the Coughing. It's now in the 1 versus 1. Oh, and it's tragic for Kither. Ooh, Flamethrower. Burns as well. 72%. Psychic. Oh, but Psychic does get the knockout. He would have needed to get the Flamethrower crit there to win that game. But honestly, a pretty good match. Kither obviously getting a little bit unlucky there for not only Trace Porygon, so his lead Ponyta just walled, but then also getting that immediate poison and Zen Headbutt miss into the Ghastly. Just lost his Munchlax for pretty much nothing. But the last series of the quarterfinals, we do get a game 3, and let's get into it now. Alright, in our game 3 of Kither Starmaster, we're in Sword and Shield Little Cup, and both of them bringing pretty normal looking teams. We got Kither with probably your closest equivalent to a Snooze Fest 6 that this tier has, but he opts for a Trapinch instead of what most people would probably see as a Diglett in that slot, obviously trying to take more advantage of the bulk the Trapinch offers instead of the speed the Diglett has. And speaking of Diglett, Starmaster's got one on the other side. I mean, honestly, it's looking like pretty much the same team from both sides. You got Mienfoo, Vullaby, Ponyard, Marini, fast special attacker that I'm going to assume the Vulpix is most likely Choice Scarf, and then ground type Trapper. So let's get into the matchup and see who's able to get out of quarters and make it to semis. Mienfoo's going to U-turn into the Volbeat, and the Volbeat is actually not weak armor. It's going to most likely be Overcoat here, and he gets a Heat Wave knockout into that Ponyard that's usually supposed to live on like 1 or 2 HP. Marini comes in here on the Weather Ball, only takes 31%. Diglett hard switches. It's ambitious by Kither. He gets a knock into the Diglett at least, but Marini is actually just going to get knocked out there. That's extremely concerning for Kither. He's now just lost his Fire Resist and Fighting Resist. Final Gambit gets clicked into the Trapinch. It's now at 55. Now going to be susceptible to getting knocked out by next Mon here as well. Fink gets clicked into Weather Ball. Kither's now in a really tough situation. Weather Ball gets clicked to 76. Knocks off the Vulpix Choice Scarf. It was Scarf, in fact. And then most likely winning a tie there. I guess we won't know unless the player said something. They didn't. Abra goes for a Shadow Ball, trying to get a mid-ground into something else. Volbeat's now going to have to proc its Berry Juice. Mienfoo's coming in. HJK, because he's not weak armor, does not get the speed boost. Vulpix is going to get sacked here to the Psychic. Vullaby comes in. Dazzling Beam gets clicked. Doesn't kill the Vullaby. It's going to go for U-turn. Doesn't actually proc a Focus Sash, funnily enough. So just lives on 1. That's very funny. Yet Ponyard gets in, gets rocks up. Does not dodge the HJK. It's going to have to come down to Abra here. Goes for Psychic. Gets the knockout into the Mienfoo. Vullaby comes in. Does Dazzling Gleam kill? No. It does 64% Shed Shell as well. So actually just lived that hit on 1 HP. That's extremely entertaining. But wow. I mean, what a game 3 to have. Really close. A lot of crucial lives and deaths getting knocked out there. really curious as well. And actually, the Abra Dazzling Gleam, if we go back to it on turn 15 into this Volibee, it did 72%. But if we go back to the final turn of the game, it only takes 64. So potentially either a max roll on that turn 15 or a min. I am too lazy to calc, so I guess we'll never know. But unfortunately for Kither, it was well fought, especially going to a game 3. But Star Master is able to get the win and move on to the semifinals. And those were our quarterfinal matches. Up on screen now is the remaining bracket of the top 4 players in the semifinals. It's going to be myself versus Star Master, and then Corkscrew versus Fatty in the semifinals. So tune into the next video to see how those matchups go on. Thank you for watching. Make sure again to like and subscribe to the channel so you can see the continued coverage of Top Cut. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Peace.